All right. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Solo Stove Forter Fireside Chat. We're super excited to host you this evening on this chilly, refreshing evening with the sun set. The tone is also set. You probably feel like you're in the Swiss Alps somewhere enjoying a romantic evening. That's exactly where we are in Dallas Concrete Jungle. So by way of introduction, Marcus Holm. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer at Forter. Been here a few years. Home for me is Seattle, Washington. I'm super excited to welcome our guest, John Merris. You want to go ahead and give a little introduction on yourself?
Sure thing. Nice to meet everybody. I'm John Merris. I'm from here. I'm actually local. Live in Southlake, just down the road. And I am the CEO of Solo Brands, which is home to Solo Stove, which is all of these products that you're seeing, as well as 3 other companies that we bought last year, which is Chubby's, which is a men's apparel business, mostly swim trunks. And then we own 2 other companies, one called Oru Kayak, which is an origami foldable kayak that weighs 20 pounds. You can kind of throw on your back like a backpack. So we own those guys. And then another company called Isle Paddleboards, which is inflatable and hard stand-up paddleboards and surfboards.
Very good. Can we go ahead and welcome John here? Let's give him a round of applause, shall we? Very good. So, John, you're from the Lone Star State, you mentioned. So you're originally from Dallas, or which part of Texas you call home?
I grew up in Austin, but I do call Dallas home. I've been here for 14 years now, so this is home.
So how are you feeling about the game yesterday?
Feeling very good about the game. Not so good about the game number 1. All the injuries. We're in trouble.
All
but
right.
Cowboys fans have been pretty disappointed for a lot of years. So,
yeah, John's determined the 90s are back. So the run is coming, multiple championships in a row. We'll see what we can do for you. Along those lines, curious to learn more about your journey overall. You kind of gave a brief introduction to Solo Brands, which now incorporates multiple brands. You've been on a journey where originally you sold these guys, Solo Stoves, kind of being the flagship brand. Curious to learn more about your journey in terms of how did you come into this role? What's your background prior to this? And what's been the focus for you in the last few years as you've been traversing the pandemic and now this awesome recession?
For sure. There's a recession going on?
I mean, there's rumors of it. I haven't seen it personally.
The definition keeps changing, so I wasn't sure if we were in one.
Exactly.
But anyway, my background has mostly actually been in growth and sales. So the last several companies that I was at, I was heads of sales in a variety of different sales leadership roles. I have been in just about every type of sale that you can imagine. I've done door-to-door sales. I've done B2B and B2C. I've done phone sales. I've done contracted sales. The one thing that I hadn't done, which is what originally actually attracted me to Solo Stove, is I hadn't ever been a part of online digital commerce. And I felt like I knew a lot about sales and growth and how it worked, except as it pertained to digital marketing or e-commerce. And the founders of Solo Stove it's actually 2 brothers that founded the business back in 2010. And what a lot of people don't know about Solo Stove is that they didn't have a really cool product idea that then they created a company around, which is how most businesses start. They actually loved e-commerce. And then they started looking for products that fit well into e-commerce. So most people don't know this, but this was actually like the 7th or 8th product idea that the Jam brothers actually had. The first one was actually garden gnomes. And then they found...
what could possibly go wrong with garden gnomes?
Well, unfortunately, when you put them in boxes and you ship them in the mail, they generally get crushed. And so every garden gnome was actually completely destroyed.
So they were jigsaw puzzles.
Absolutely.
Nice.
Absolutely. But they did dog seat covers. They actually did mattresses in a box before Purple and Casper took off. They were just 4 years early. So timing is everything, they like to say. But eventually they landed on Solo Stove in 2010, launched the business. I didn't actually join the company until 2018. I was the 7th employee, so it was still pretty small, but they were moonlighting from 2010 to 2016. They had grown the business to $8 or $9 million of business, and then they didn't really ever start it thinking that they wanted to manage people or grow a big team. It was kind of a side hustle, and it got to a size where they realized they needed to build out a team and actually manage people, and that's where I came in. So they hired me, and I joined in 2018. And I kind of took all of the stuff I had been doing with growth and sales and started putting it on top of what they had built. They taught me a lot about e-commerce, and I taught them a lot about how to really put horsepower behind a really cool business and really cool product. And we grew the business from $8 or $9 million in 2018 to about $350 million of revenue last year. And then we bought those other 3 companies and finished last year close to $500 million in revenue.
Let's give them a round of applause for that growth. That's pretty incredible. So let's take a brief detour. We held the event here at a bowling alley on purpose because we intend to challenge you to a duel after this on the hardwood there. So if we handed you a ball, what kind of score can we expect out of you after 10 frames?
Is there money on it?
Let's just assume there is money, so you'll try your hardest.
Okay.
I mean, are we talking 40, 50?
If there were money on it and it really mattered, I might be able to throw up a 120.
120. Okay, is this with bumpers or without bumpers?
No bumpers.
No bumpers. All right, we have witnesses.
Hold me to that.
All right, we have witnesses.
Hold me to that.
Very good. Well, certainly a fascinating story in terms of growing a company that was effectively an idea, needed some sort of go-to-market rocket fuel to get it into the hands of more and more customers. The pandemic was perfect timing from my view. So ironically, I came across Solo Stove by word of mouth and heard about it as a way to spend quality family time outside in a pandemic where social distancing was a thing. What better thing to do than hang out and cook some s'mores and food? And so seeing these in REI and Dick's and stuff was pretty incredible for a lesser-known company in such a short period of time. As you took it to IPO last year, what's been your focus in what areas, which parts of the business have been your primary focus as you look at these different distribution channels? Because many of your peers here are in digital, whether they're in payments, they're in fraud, marketing, take your pick. And some of them have exclusively an online business. Some have a brick and mortar. Some are self-listing, a direct-to-consumer business. Some are on Shopify, Amazon. I'm just curious for you as the CEO of the Solo brands, how do you look at these different distribution channels? What trends are you seeing? What's most profitable? Anything that you're allowed to share based on public statements you've already made in the market?
For sure. So yeah, Marcus let the cat out of the bag. So we did IPO last October. Our ticker, our ticker on the New York Stock Exchange is DTC. So direct to consumer is definitely our focus. It's what we've been about from the beginning. So we are omni-channel. We're in brick and mortar. We're in some big retailers, Dick's Sporting Goods, REI, Ace, some really great partners of ours. But still today, 85% of our business is direct-to-consumer digital online, and 15% is brick and mortar. So you heard the kind of revenue numbers just a few minutes ago, so you can think about kind of the size and scale or so of our online digital business.
What allowed you to so quickly grow to an 85% online presence when you're lesser known, say 3 years ago? You kind of went from obscurity, nobody knows who you are, to getting that kind of traffic to your site. What was the key to the digital growth?
Yeah, so when I joined the business, we were 100%, basically 100% direct to consumer. So I actually have introduced more of the omni-channel direct to retail partnerships to the mix. But our growth, I just always point back to our focus on a direct one-to-one relationship with the customer. We love e-commerce because e-commerce allows us to interact with customers individually, whereas you don't get that opportunity necessarily whenever you're working through retailers or through other partners. And then we take that one-to-one relationship and we leverage it as much as we can. So you just mentioned you found, even independent of me, I don't even think you knew I was with the company when you first found the product, but you found it through a referral, and we're really big on that. We just have always believed at Solo that if you take great care of your customers take great care of you. And ultimately, the way that looks for us in a direct-to-consumer model is they tell their friends and family, you got to participate and be a part of this brand. And so they ultimately, end up shopping with you, and then that just becomes a domino effect.
And are you able to effectively track that attribution to know how much of your volume comes from word of mouth on social, people posting selfies and advocating for Solo brands versus paid social, paid ads that you run?
Yeah, so 50% of our business is generated from word of mouth. So friends and family telling people that they need to participate. So half of our business, our new business that comes in, is actually coming from referral. That's fully tracked. In fact, that's a self-selected survey. So customers telling us how they found us.
Excellent.
And then about 40% is repeat customers coming back and shopping with us a second or third or fourth time.
Got it. Okay. And take another detour, because I love detours, scenic drives, if you will. So I know we're in a similar phase of life, and we were talking about you have a son who I think is 14-ish, playing basketball. I've got 13-year-old twin boys also playing basketball. So on Saturdays we do 2 versus 1, and I made him a deal that when they beat me in basketball, I'll get him a nice smartphone. Until then, it's still a flip phone. So my question for you is, if your son challenged you to a nice game of one-on-one right now, who wins that matchup?
He loses 11-0.
Wow. So I have more unconditional love for my children than you do. I let them score at least 9 so they feel good about themselves, but you're relentless.
Never. Every point he scores, he earns.
Okay. Well, no wonder you have a monopoly on the solo stove business. No one's going to compete against you. You're ruthless. Okay. Very good. No, that's very, I mean, first of all, kudos to you for developing that kind of advocacy and loyalty from your customer base to generate half your sales, because usually customer acquisition costs can be a real line item in generating the necessary traffic to your site and getting loyal customers. As you look at LTV, how do you measure that, and what measures are you taking to try to increase it over time?
So we measure LTV to CAC ratio. So we're just looking at the ratio between how much it costs us to acquire the customer the first time and then how much that customer spends with us over their lifespan. Now, we're not a super old company. I mean, we're 10 years old. We probably have really been tracking that well for the last 3 years. So we've even lost the LTV from some of the earlier cohorts in the business. But we generally track between a 4.5 and 5 LTV to CAC ratio. Which is a really good ratio. It allows you to make better decisions, I believe, on the front end on what you're willing to do to acquire a customer or what you're willing to invest for a great customer experience. Ultimately, we're big believers that if you deliver an exceptional customer experience the first time, that it's easier for them to come back to want to come and spend more money with the brand. I believe that 10 years from now, brands are really going to be the way of the future, that customers, consumers will handpick whatever their number is of brands that they want to participate with and shop from, and ultimately they'll spend the majority of their dollars with those brands. And what we're trying to do, and you see it with some of the acquisitions we've made, but find the brands that we think are doing an exceptional job at delivering an awesome customer experience that's really going to drive a big wallet share down the line.
Very good. And as you look at your product portfolio, and we've got it displayed over there on the table, you've evolved to have different sizes of portable fire pits, stationary fire pits. Now you've got the tabletop Mesa. What are you seeing as far as trends of your customers and repeat buyers? Are they mostly folks coming back to the well to buy a second time, third time, fourth time? Do you attract a lot of first-time buyers based on a new product introduction, where now all of a sudden they want the pizza oven, but maybe they don't necessarily want the Yukon? I'm just curious what trends you're seeing from repeats.
Yeah, so there's a lot to unpack with this question, but there are a lot of, if I go back to the one-to-one relationship with the customer, one of the biggest misses that I feel like a lot of brands don't exploit enough with their customers is just communicating with them. Customers love to talk to you, and we do it very authentically. Like, we just had a wonderful conversation talking about the products that this nice woman over here has for Solo Stove in New York, in Long Island. And we talked through what she has, what products she doesn't have, which ones she wishes she has, which ones she's gifted to her children already. And, any opportunity I have, that was, very impromptu here in a face-to-face environment, but even in an email environment with a survey on the phone. We actually do NPS surveys with every customer that comes through our site, and you can imagine the quantity when you're doing, call it $400 million of revenue just online for a business of our size. But every detractor, so every customer that rates us less than a 7, we talk to on the phone. Every single customer that rates us less than a 7, we talk to on the phone. And believe it or not, most of the time that 6 or 5 or 4 or whatever they rated us becomes a 10 by the end of the call. It's just so simple. Most of the time it's a misunderstanding. All of the products that we have, so we have a portable pizza oven back there, we have a tabletop fire pit, we have a grill, this is our largest of the portable fire pits. All of these products exist because a customer told us to make this product. That's the only reason they exist. This one we actually thought would completely fail. We didn't think there was any chance that somebody would want this big of a clunk of piece of stainless steel in their backyard. And it turns out that the only thing people like more than fire is a bigger one. But we didn't understand that. Our customers helped us understand that, and then we made it, and it's really taken off. And so I think that for us, it all just circles around customer experience and just responding to customer needs. Very different than, one of my icons in business that I've studied relentlessly is Steve Jobs, right? And if you look at Apple and now what Tim Cook's doing there and the rest of their team, it's very much around, like, Jobs' whole mentality was the consumer doesn't even know what they want. So we're going to deliver products that, like, they can't even imagine. We are on the opposite end of that spectrum. We have no interest in designing things that you can't imagine. I only want to make stuff that you can imagine, and then you tell me that you're willing to pay me for it. And then I make that, and you buy it. And that's been a big unlock for us.
So anecdotally, the first Solo I bought was the Bonfire, which by name sounded huge. So I was so proud of myself. I lit that baby up. Then I went to a neighborhood gathering, and he had a Yukon, and I had that immediate FOMO, and I was like, oh, he one-upped me. So, of course, I had to go online and buy the Yukon. So now I've got one of each. And there's.
I can't believe you didn't text me for a discount code.
Oh, I did.
That's normally like you.
Yeah. No, I got a discount code on the first one, but I was so embarrassed to go back to the well 2 weeks later. I didn't ask you for another discount code. So if you want to just indulge me on my third detour. So some of our guests here are from a certain jeweler, high-end, has blue boxes, brings smiles to a lot of ladies' faces typically when they see it. So I did negotiate some bartering of your inventory in exchange for some diamonds. So as long as you can foot the bill for that, you'll make my wife very happy, and I'll be in the game for a little longer.
We have a lot of stoves. We have a lot of stoves in the warehouse.
Perfect.
It's probably going to take a lot of them, though.
Oh, speak of the devil, there they are. I wasn't sure if they were still present, but the barter is going to hold up. And it turns out there's two things you can never have big enough: diamonds and bonfires. Am I right?
100%.
100%.
Well done.
Here.
Well done.
Here. Well done.
That was impressive.
That was on the spot.
Off the cuff.
I know. I'm practicing for stand-up after this day job ends. All right, very good. So let's take this a step further, because similar to what you've already achieved, you have very strong word of mouth. You have loyalty around your brand. At Forter, we have a program called Friends of Forter, where we similarly derive a lot of our leads from customers who have left our organization, where they use Forter, they land somewhere else. They love the experience so much that they want to bring us into their new place of business because we're able to drive some pretty impressive outcomes for them. And namely, we try to strive around approving as much as possible, reduce as much fraud as possible, and just make the operating model more scalable by introducing automation, innovation, so you're not scaling your business with humans over time, because that just becomes cost prohibitive. And so for you, when you made some acquisitions here in the last year or so, you mentioned Chubby's Shorts was one of the brands. They were a Forter customer. Can you maybe just kind of give some backdrop for the audience in terms of what was it about the Chubby's experience or performance that then encouraged you to adopt Forter more broadly across all of your brands as you looked at alternatives as well?
Yeah, so I think probably makes sense for me to just take a step back and just talk about Solo Stove for a second. I think when we started really scaling, let's just say that when we got to a $40-50 million online business and beyond, I think one of the things that I completely was oblivious to and had no expectation around or understanding of was digital fraud. Like it took me by surprise. And I remember it was a lead up to Black Friday of 2019 when the phone started ringing from irate customers who were calling us because their credit card had been charged, but they hadn't actually been the one to shop. Their card had been stolen, and then there were these like really intricate schemes that fraudsters had. And I was like, man, if they put as much effort into just like being a legit human being, they would probably be really productive, because these were like very elaborate themes. And so we started addressing online fraud the holiday of 2019 for the first time. We had no solution prior to that. And as you can expect, the first time you turn on a fraud tool, you immediately see results. Like the fraud stops. The problem is that transactions stop too. and then we learned the flip side of fraud protection, which is keeping legit customers off of your site, which is a huge problem for us. And so we struggled with the headache and heartache, frankly. I mean, you've heard me talk about how important our customers are to us. And so it was just heartbreaking, just time. We have an 82 NPS. So we have a very high NPS. Customers love our brand. And yet we had customers calling us, and the number one issue they were blowing up customer service with was, I'm on your site and I'm trying to check out and I can't. And I'm like, are you serious? Like sales 101, somebody's trying to give you their money, you take it, right? You don't not take their money. And yet customers had so much friction. And so we went through a variety at Solo Stove, a variety of fraud protection type platforms or softwares that we were plugging into our store. And honestly, it just time after time was just frustration after frustration. They would change something in their code, so we'd have it all figured out, and then the code would change, and then it didn't work. And so to the acquisitions last year, one of the first things we sat down, so the Chubby's acquisition happened September, so it was ahead of Q4 last year, and one of the first things we did is start looking at the tools across all of the brands, and we got to the fraud protection tools, and all of us were talking across 3 of the brands. We're talking about how frustrated it had been, how frustrating the experience had been, and then Chubby's like raises their hand and like, well, we're having an awesome experience, and we're like, nobody's ever said that to me about a fraud tool.
Is it fair to say Chubby's was fat and happy?
Chubby's was fat and happy.
Now we're talking. Keep going. I like the story.
So in any case, that was the first time they actually brought up the name, the company name Forter. And what many of you don't know is Marcus and I actually go back a ways. We've actually known each other for probably more than a decade now.
Yeah, almost 15 years,
but
I think.
Marcus used to live actually here locally in Texas and moved away over a decade ago, 15 years ago, and we really haven't kept in touch. And they're talking about Forter, and then we start making introductions, and I actually remember like somehow I saw on LinkedIn that Marcus was at Forter, and then a sales guy of Marcus's reached out to me, and I was like, I'll only take this call if you can get Marcus on the phone. And
which is rare, by the way, because normally customers say, I'll only get on the call if Marcus doesn't join.
Marcus is not on the phone. Well, that's actually what the sales guy said to me. He's like, really? Because nobody ever wants to talk to Marcus.
Careful what you wish for, John.
But Marcus, we ended up getting on the phone and talking through the solution, and honestly, that's kind of how we ended up getting to where we're at. But it was a lot of the experience that Chubby's had over the previous 18 months or so being a partner with Forter.
Yeah, it's been a testament to, I think, what we've seen in many places, especially in portfolio companies like yours, where you have a number of brands with different tech stacks. And it's been fascinating with your breakback pace growth with your digital leaders, watching them just quickly, decisively consolidate tools, consolidate processes, rally around and standardize on one. And so on behalf of the Forter family, we're glad you're a friend of Forter. And we hope if you get canned tomorrow and you go somewhere else, you'll bring Forter with you.
100%. I hope I don't get canned, but I will definitely bring Forter with me.
If you get solo stoved, then you'll bring Forter with you. No, just tease. You're doing a great job. It's been great growth, so you should be safe for at least another quarter, I would think. So, all right. Well, I think I've asked most of the questions I intended to ask. How much time do I have left, marketing team? Is there any questions? Because I just want to poll the audience. Does anybody have a question or two they'd like to ask John? Because I'd like in a fireside chat to open it up to the public. If there's something you haven't heard yet, that would be interesting for you to hear. Don't be shy, because we're going to do a raffle in a minute, and it turns out you can't win the raffle if you don't ask a question. I just made that up right now.
You've been really good off the cuff until that one. That
yeah.
So good.
Yeah, well, diminishing returns. I can only go so long. Yes, please. So a question he's asking is, how does solo brands feel about resellers, reshippers, gray market, folks who are not buying with the intent of using it themselves?
Yeah, it is an issue for sure for us. We do a decent amount now. I mean, even as a smaller percentage because of our volume, it's a pretty hefty amount of business. Call it $60 million or something this year that we'll do in some sort of resale type program. And we have paperwork that's supposed to limit resellers from ultimately reselling the product in kind of forbidden channels. So, for instance, none of our retailers can sell on Amazon, so that we kind of protect our brand image there. But We also just have a lot of knockoffs, like just flat out trademark infringement. So people just throwing the Solo Stove name on, something that looks somewhat similar, and then sending it out, and then the product fails, and the customer calls us, and lo and behold, they realize they didn't actually buy the product from us. They bought it from a fraudster, call it solobonfire.com or something, some random site like that.
Should I be embarrassed to admit that's actually my side hustle?
Perfect. So yeah, we deal with that. Actually, since we went public, it's become an even bigger issue, and we spend a decent amount on legal, just protecting that side of the business.
All right, maybe time for one more question. Any brave takers? Going once. Please, Brian. Okay, so question is, as a publicly traded company, how do you reflect fraud or impact of fraud to your shareholders publicly?
Yeah, so up to now, the only thing shareholder-wise that we report on is just disclosures around the risks associated with digital commerce. So we just have to disclose that being an online e-commerce business exposes us to risks that other businesses may not have, just like a brick and mortar business would have to disclose that they have risks associated with brick and mortar that we don't have. Like, we don't have to have overnight security to keep people from breaking windows and running into our stores. But one of those risks, one of the major risks that we disclose with online e-commerce is associated with fraud. So any sort of credit card fraud, customer fraud, things like that. With the board, it's a little bit different of a story. So generally, we have quarterly board meetings, and in those board meetings, there's always an online kind of CISO type, security update around what we've done, any risks or exposure points that we've seen in the business with fraud in the previous quarter, and then what mitigation risks or mitigation plans that we put in place to overcome those. So the board is asking about it every quarter for us.
Very good. And I'd encourage, if you have some additional questions or want to have a private sidebar conversation, I'm pleading with John to stick around for a little bit, get some nachos and some food afterwards. So feel free to hunt him down and get your questions answered. He will work for food. Am I right?
100%.
100%. He's a 100% kind of guy. All right. Now we're going to get to the portion that you've all been waiting for, because let's face it, you didn't come here to hear from these sparkling personalities. You wanted free stuff. So let's get to the free stuff, shall we? So I believe we've got 3 drawings. One for each product that's on display up there. So the first one we're going to raffle off is the Yukon 2.0. It's this beautiful silver contraption you see in front of me. So John, let's go ahead and draw a number and see who we got for the winner.
I hope I pick good. Don't be mad if I don't pick your number, please. All right, here we go. I mixed them up good. Let's see if I can read this. All right, everybody ready? Numbers are out? Okay, get your tickets ready. You get one shot at this. Or I'm picking another one. 3, 1, 5, 7, 1. Who's still in it? Oh,
of course.
The
it's
last
my
number is.
It's our Tiffany's, ladies.
5.
Oh. Okay, let's watch the exclusive.
Nobody's got it? Going once? Going twice?
Maybe read it one more time.
All right.
Just in case.
I didn't want to have to, but everybody's so nice. Oh!
Wow, that was quite the head fake
Dude,
you did.
That was totally a head fake.
Wow.
You just broke some ankles on that one.
Yeah, you did. Don't play basketball against John's son. You'll put him in the ER. All right, awesome.
Guy.
Okay, so the Yukon is yours. I have no idea how you're going to get this home to Jersey, but it's going to be fun to watch. Strap it on your back. She's dedicated to the cause. All right, so now we got the regular Solo Stove with the beautiful black stand.
This is the grill. The Solo Stove grill.
Yes.
You can use charcoal or wood. And we have 315. Everybody still in? All right, perfect. 7, 3. Who's still in? Oh, we got a couple.
Oh, we got it.
All right. The last number is 1.
Number 1
there we
stunner.
go.
Come
All
on
right.
up. All right.
Here we go.
Congratulations on the new grill. Okay, is this the pizza oven? This
All
is
right.
one of your newest products as well, right, John?
This is the newest.
The pie
This is-
pizza oven.
There's a lot of tickets in here.
Ooh.
Everybody wanted the pizza oven. All right, here we go. 3, 1, 5, 7, 6. Who's still in? If you don't raise your hand right now, you can. Okay. All right. The last number is 9.
Brian. See, you ask a question, you win stuff. I told you. I'm a man of my word.
Hey, you might have gotten ousted on the whatever the deal was earlier, but not on this one. All right.
Congratulations, Brian. Now for the disclosures. It's strictly coincidental that the person who asked a question won and the person who's bartering jewelry for stoves won. I had nothing to do with it. It was random. You
I
saw
promise
it.
there were a lot of numbers in there. That was completely random. But that
Awesome.
was-
All right, Marissa, any other special instruction we have for our guests before we wind down?
Don't forget to grab your Solo Stove Mesa, so everybody gets to leave with a Solo Stove
baby,
product.
a Mesa?
If you do not want to take it with you on the flight, which it can fly, we double-checked. We do have a QR code. You can fill out your address, and we will mail it to you.
I mean, we're going to have a lot of friends
It's
at Forter
it's
after
a
that.
cute little thing, so it'll totally fit. And it is our newest launch. They are out of stock, but Forter, because they're so awesome,
Yes.
we pulled aside some inventory for them. So literally, you would have to be waiting to get that product right now. It's really cool. It's a tabletop fire pit, so it's a mini version of this.
Well, first of all, before we wrap, I just want to thank all of you. I know there's a lot of competing events tonight, and you chose to spend your evening with us, so we genuinely appreciate you joining us this evening. And then secondly, I really want to thank our guest of honor, John Merris. Let's give him a round of applause.
Thanks, Marcus.
Thanks,
you,
everybody.
guys.
Enjoy your evening. Cheers.